What's up, guys? It's Friday. Here to answer your questions. Hit me. What do you guys got for me? Thoughts on Afghanistan? Oh, God. Clusterfuck. Hi, I was recommended to follow you. Thank you. Thoughts on COVID vaccine? Not my area of expertise, but I think getting vaccinated is probably a good idea. Diet Coke. Yes, I love Diet Coke. Yeah, let's talk about it. So, a lot of people have this idea that they think that artificial sweeteners or Diet Coke is going to give you cancer, or it's going to mess up your microbiome, or whatever else they come up with. So let me be very, very clear. Diet Coke is bad, or artificial sweeteners are bad. If you are a petri dish or a lab rat getting 10,000 times the normal dosage that you could get in one of these, before, you would literally drown yourself and die from electrolyte dilution to get enough diet soda to actually cause harm to yourself. The idea disrupts your gut microbiome, also complete nonsense and not supported by any human data, only data in animals where they're giving it 10,000 times the normal dose. So, no. Guys, on the bio lane, I'm going to take a few questions here, and then I'm going to switch over to the Carbon Diet Coach Instagram, because this is an Instagram live for Carbon Diet Coach. How many out there use, what's up, Sean? You're welcome. How many out there you guys use Carbon Diet Coach, our nutritional coaching app? Give me a hands up or whatever. If you have any questions about the app, please drop them. If you don't use the app and you're wondering about it, let me know. Do you or Holly have a book on nutrition or training? Yes, I have several books on nutrition. You can find them at biolanestore.com. For most people, my book, Fat Loss Forever, is going to be your best bet. It's going to take fat loss and take it from like this mysterious like sort of thing and break down the stuff that actually matters versus the stuff that's actually BS. I love Carbon. Awesome. Love that. I see all the hands going up. Love the app. That's awesome. We love you. Let's see. Okay. Here's a question. How important is a step goal during fat loss? Well, the first thing I want to say is you can absolutely lose fat without doing cardio. You don't have to do purposeful cardio. But I do think tracking your steps is really useful, and here's why. When people diet, they tend to become spontaneously less active. In fact, we had a case study of a client of Team Layne, one of our coaches here, who basically, real quick, somebody said Fat Loss Forever disappeared from Audible. Fat Loss Forever was not, the one on Audible was not me. I didn't approve it. It was somebody who scammed us, or they didn't scam us. They got a narrator, gave them the book, had them record it, and then put it on Audible to sell, and we got none of those profits. So it was actually somebody who was scamming people. So we will do an audio book in the future, but we're not doing it right now. Step counts. Step counts, I think, are useful because if I know, for example, I get about 10,000 steps a day on average for me. And that's, I don't really have to do a whole lot to get that because I have kids, and those of you who have kids know that it can be difficult in terms of like you're moving a lot. But if I was cutting, what I might do is I say, okay, if I know my step, I know I hit 10,000 steps per day in a calorie surplus. If I go into fat loss, my goal might just be to maintain that 10,000 steps a day, because during fat loss and calorie restriction, you do become spontaneously less active without realizing it. And so that might mean on some days, I don't have to do any cardio to hit that 10,000 step count. And other days, it might mean I have to do an hour of like walking in order to hit that step count. So it's really nice because like on days you're more active, you can auto-regulate and don't have to do purposeful cardio. But on days you're less active, you can do more cardio to hit that count. Let's see. Oh, my first show ever and mostly used your book. Awesome. Crazy. That's bullshit. Yes, it is. But you know what? We lose probably 25% of our income to piracy every year. And it just is what it is. I'm going to take one more question. High protein at breakfast is much more effective to gain muscle and strength, according to a study. Well, that's more so not because breakfast is magic, but one, you're coming off an 8-hour fast, and during fasting, protein synthesis decreases. Contrary to what intermittent fasting people might tell you, fasting is not anabolic. You're recovering. So if you have a high protein meal at breakfast, you're going to help recover those rates of muscle protein synthesis quicker. The other thing is you're just distributing more across the day. If you're most Americans eat 65% of their protein at night. If you can distribute that protein more effectively, it actually is more anabolic insofar as you have a certain cap of anabolism on each meal for protein, and going above that cap is not going to give you even more anabolism. So if you are able to distribute your protein a little bit more effective over like 3-4 meals, it's better than like 1 or 2 meals. All right, guys, on my Instagram, I'm going over to Carbon Diet Coach Instagram now, where I'm going to answer all the questions. So if you follow me there, there'll be actually less people on it, so you get a better chance to ask your question. So follow me over to Carbon Diet Coach, and I'll see you guys there. Hey gang, on StreamYard here, on Facebook and Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Stay with me. I've just got to move over to the Carbon. Okay, here we go. And we're going live, and there we are. All right. Questions on Facebook and YouTube. Carbon meals. Can you guys show the breakdown of macros for each meal based on the calories assigned? I think this would be super helpful, balance of each meal, whether or not people are used that or not. I think that's a really bad idea, just to be honest, because you don't need to eat the same thing in every meal calorie-wise. You don't need to eat the same thing in every meal macro-wise, regardless of what your macro breakdown is. And if we make that recommendation, there are so many OCD people who will take that way too far. And if they have one meal that's a little bit over what their average should be, they'll just blow their whole day. So again, the most important thing is the daily intake. And that's why we've done it that way. There's no evidence that either evenly distributing your calories or weighting them more heavily towards like morning or evening is more beneficial for body composition, fat loss, muscle building. Therefore, people should have the flexibility to do what they want to do. I love the app, but my problem is inconsistency. Any advice to keep tracking and being accountable? It's so hard sometimes. It would be helpful if Carbon had some motivation quotes when doing weekly check-ins. We're going to work on putting more coaching prompts into the app. That's one of the things we're working on currently. But at the end of the day, my wife says that I'm a freak insofar as like when I decide to do something, I just do it. But maybe it's because I have ADHD. I don't know. It makes sense in my mind. If there is something that I want, then there is a cost to that something I want. The cost is going to be work and time and consistency. If I'm not willing to do the work and I'm not willing to be consistent, it's very simple. I'm not going to get what I want. And so if I'm on a fat loss phase and I put it in my mind that that's what I want to do, then to me, I'm not going to say I've never went off my plan, but if you ask my wife, she's never seen it. Because to me, that would be being disrespectful to myself and what I want. Because I don't care what people say, because people say whatever. Your actions will show me what's important to you. If people say, oh, well, I want to lose fat, and then they are not taking the actions that are necessary in order to do that goal, then it is quite obvious to me that that is not a priority. And that's fine. Somebody isn't a bad person just because they aren't doing that. But it would be like somebody saying, well, my kids are the most important thing in my life. And then they never spend any time with their kids. It's like, no, it doesn't matter what you say. If you're not putting in the time and the effort, then it's not important to you. So again, it probably comes across as me being very unempathetic. I understand there are things that make it difficult. You could be hungry. There's social situations, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it boils down to choices. You have choices, and you can choose to do what it takes in order to reach your goals or not. And to me, if I have a goal that's really important to me, it's no choice. I have to do it. Amanda's right. If you put a question in the question box on Instagram, I'm more likely to answer it. It also depends on how bad you really want it. Absolutely. If you're not willing to do the work, then you just don't want it that bad. And I think back to when I haven't reached goals in my life. If I said it was a goal and I didn't reach it, it's because I didn't really want it that bad. I probably said I wanted it because I felt like I should want it based on what other people were saying. But when Tony Robbins says, you don't get what you need, you don't get what you want, you get what you have to have. So when you put it in your mind that this is no longer negotiable, this isn't like, people get so caught up in motivation. They're like, oh, well, I just have trouble having motivation. Let me ask you something. Do you have motivation every day when you go to work? I bet you don't. Do you have motivation when you get up and brush your teeth? Probably don't. Do you have motivation when you make your bed? Probably not. Do you have motivation when you clean the house? Probably not. So why do you do that stuff? Because you know if you don't do it, there will be consequences, right? If you do not sacrifice for what you want will be the sacrifice, period. Do you have a rule as to what to eat at certain times of the day for weight loss, such as grains only in the morning and vegetable or protein with other meals? No, that's all nonsense. You can eat grains any time of the day and lose fat if you're in a calorie deficit. It's all about being consistent. Now, if there are certain food choices that help facilitate that consistency, then I'm all for that. But there's no evidence that eating certain foods at certain times of the day are better for fat loss versus others. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, can you talk about rep ranges? Example, how it should be altered to your training, how often you should be changing your rep ranges. So if the goal is building muscle, there's many ways to skin a cat. The research shows that you can build muscle doing heavy weight for low reps, and you can build muscle doing lightweight for high reps, and it doesn't appear to be difference in how much you can build. At least in the shorter term studies of like 12, 16 weeks. But, so what that says is do what you enjoy in terms of muscle building. Now, I will say for strength is specific. If you want to become much stronger, then it's more of a prerequisite to train with heavy loads at lower repetition ranges to facilitate that. So for me, I want to be as muscular as possible, but I also like being really strong. So I train with a variety of rep ranges, but the basis of that is usually heavier weights and lower repetitions. But that's just because what I prefer. You don't have to do that. But you have to take the set with sufficient intensity. So you need to do enough sets, volume, and you need to take it to close enough to failure, within at least like 5 reps and probably more like within 2 or 3 reps of failure. And I'm not talking about, a lot of people do this. I'm not talking about it's failure when the set gets hard. I'm talking about if you're failing, failure means like if I'm on a squat, I go down and I do not come up. And it's not like, oh, I just quit on it because it was hard. No, it's like I went to recruit every fiber of my being and my body said, nah, we done. That's failure. Okay, people will say, well, 2 reps from failure is easy. You know, it's not that hard. Anybody who's ever done a set of squats to absolute failure, I mean absolute failure, when you collapse in the rack, and I have done that, you're telling me if I stop 2 reps shy of that, it would feel easy. You're out of your mind. So you need to take it to a sufficient intensity. Mike Israetel says it's about going to the dark place. So when I train and I want to take a set, of sufficient intensity, that set is the most important thing in the world to me in that moment. And I don't always take them to failure. In fact, I don't take them to failure often, but I know what failure feels like. And so when somebody says, oh, just do a nice easy RPE 8, you've never trained hard. Anybody who says like taking a set 2 reps shy of failure is easy, you've never trained hard, period. Tell me you've never trained hard without telling me you've never trained hard. If you say things like nice, easy RPE 8, that's how I know you've never trained hard. So to answer your question, any kind of reps will work. You've got to do enough sets. You've got to do enough sets with sufficient intensity and proximity to failure. Let's see here. Any insight into what's in the pipeline for carbon deb? I can't really go too much into this because I don't want to create a bunch of expectations with people. And we don't know how long it's going to take. But right now, we are in the process of basically overhauling the app. It works great, but we're always trying to improve. But we're working on putting together one so that you can still, even if you have no internet connection, you can still use the app. That's one thing we're doing. We're also working on basically rebuilding it so that everything functions better and runs smoother and faster. And we're also working on setting it up so that when we go to scale things in the future, they can be more easily done. And that's about all I can say. Yes, there's going to be a lot of new features coming out in the future. We have a lot of ideas of stuff we want to do based on your guys' feedback, but it is going to take time. So just be patient with us. I lift weights, but main workout is jiu-jitsu. Is this app designed mostly for weightlifting or all types of sports? All types of sports. If body composition is a consideration for you or body weight is a consideration for you, this app is for you. Hang on. You say fiber is important. Are you going to add fiber into carbon to make sure you're getting enough daily? We actually already track fiber. If you go to your circles on your app, you see the circles, lower right to that, there's a little lowercase I for info. If you press that, then you can see your fiber as well as all your micronutrients. Should I strength train while in a deficit? Goal is to lose 77 pounds, currently down 40 pounds. I have a meniscus tear in my knee. If you do not train, you should, what builds muscle best will maintain it best. This idea that you shouldn't train during fat loss because you can't build muscle No, but if you don't train, you will lose that muscle, especially in a deficit. The body has even more of a reason to start shedding muscle. So it becomes as important or more important to train hard in order to maintain the lean body mass that you've built. If it takes between 24 to 72 hours for full digestion, why is it important to eat protein every 4 to 6 hours? So this myth is perpetuated by people who've never had digestion physiology. So the first thing is most of the absorption of the nutrients out of your food are within a few hours of you eating it, okay? So, for example, protein, most of which gets absorbed in the duodenum, or duodenum, depending on how you pronounce it. The duodenum is the initial part of the small intestine right after emptying out of the pyloric sphincter from the stomach. And that's where you absorb the majority of your amino acids. You absorb some in the ileum and some in the jejunum, but most are in the duodenum. That happens, you will be absorbing amino acids within 30 minutes after eating a meal. Like you'll have some starting to get into the bloodstream. And it usually will last, 5 hours, 6 hours. But after 5-6 hours, those amino acids in the bloodstream have likely gone back down to baseline, unless you're using something like a casein protein that has a really slow digestion rate. What you're referring to with digestion is how long does it take for it to go in one end and come out the other? Well, keep in mind that what's coming out of your butt, the back end, is mostly undigested matter, like insoluble fiber. Sorry, I'm stretching my hip. Insoluble fiber, but most of it, the vast majority of it, is intestinal cells that are turning over. Okay, so and bacteria. There's quite a bit of bacteria in there. So that's digestion in terms of the full gut transit time. But in terms of how long you're actually absorbing nutrients, like I said, you're absorbing within 30 minutes and you're usually done within like 6 hours, sometimes longer. 8 months, 32 pounds gone forever. Thank you, Carbon. Love it. Let me see here. So when I'm lifting, if I get to where I can't move anymore in the lift, have I reached failure? Yes, momentary muscle failure. So let me give an example. If I'm on a bench press and I'm doing bench press, bench press, bench press, bench press, bench press, bench press, that's failure. Started Carbon back in July, lost 7 pounds and still going down. Thank you. No, thank you. Let's see here. Let's go look at a few more questions. Almost 2 weeks in and I love the app. Thank you. Why doesn't Carbon ask for skeletal muscle mass for protein during a deficit? That doesn't make any sense. Carbon asks you for your weight and your body fat. And by knowing those two things, it can calculate your lean body mass, which is what protein requirements are based off of. And so it does take into account your lean body mass. Can you give any tips on how to deal with hunger? Sure. One thing is eating very, very voluminous foods that are not very calorie dense. So fruits, vegetables, lean meats, those sorts of things. One of my favorites actually that people don't think about is actually like low-fat popcorn is super voluminous and it takes a while to eat. So I actually use that as like my carb source when I'm cutting quite a bit because Like it just takes a long time to eat. It tastes pretty good, and it actually has a lot of fiber. But another thing is you just got to be okay with being hungry sometimes. I'm sorry. Like that's just part of it. Like you want to lose fat, you are going to be uncomfortable at times. Change is never comfortable, no matter how you're doing it. Whether it's therapy because you had trauma when you were younger and you're trying to get better at stuff, that's not comfortable. If you're trying to save money because you want to save for something and do something, that's not comfortable because it means you've got to live a little bit more conservative during that time. No change that you ever want to happen is going to be easy. And so you need to accept and be willing to sit with your hunger and realize, hey, I'm hungry right now, but this is not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. It will pass. Your body has no reason to make you stay hungry for, days on time. Now, if you're in a cut and you're like at really low body fat, yeah, you'll have like a gnawing appetite all the time. But like the physiological signs of hunger, of like your stomach growling and feeling like, man, I'm really, really hungry, those will abate over time. So sit with your hunger, acknowledge that it's there, accept it, but realize that you don't have to necessarily pay attention to it. Let's see here. You look awesome. Thank you. Also, when I'm hungry, I think about how I'm not going to die if I don't eat now. And I check myself. Yeah, the other thing is like, make sure that you're actually hungry and you don't just think you're hungry because of a social situation or whatnot. Like a lot of times the cues that make us eat food aren't even our internal hunger cues. They're like, oh, we're at a party and other people are eating, so we're going to eat. Like, that's not actual hunger. Hey, Layne, got any tips for a 19-year-old? Tons. You will regret the things you say no to more than the things you say yes to, usually. You're going to make a shitload of mistakes. Don't worry about trying to avoid them. Don't try to be perfect. You're going to fail. You're going to mess up. Be willing to fail. Be willing to make mistakes, but learn from them and don't make the same mistakes multiple times. That's what I would tell you. Do you have any favorite self-improvement books? I actually really liked Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I'm a pretty motivated person regardless, but like reading his book, you realize that, wow, no matter how bad I've had it or the things that have happened to me, there's somebody who came from worse and did better. That's it. So I always tell people like everybody's got excuses, right? Like everybody's excuses are valid because their experiences are valid. And like, for example, I was bullied horribly growing up, like horribly. I struggle with certain things today in my life for shit that happened 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, actually. So it's like, why should that bother me, right? But it's invalid because there are people out there who are doing better than me, who had no parents. They were beaten by, or maybe they were beaten by their parents, tortured. There are people out there who've been raped. There are people out there who have been homeless, drug addicts, all this kind of stuff, and made something of themselves that was impressive. So what the fuck is your excuse, is what I tell myself. And if you read David Goggins' story, you understand why I say that. I'm 42 years old, 6'2", 310. Best exercise to start. You mentioned resistance training before, but what about free weights? Less weight, more reps. There's no specific fat burning programs. This is going to be hard to hear based on social media and what they tell you. If you're going to resistance train, which I highly recommend, do it for the benefits it has on building lean body mass. I assure you, those will contribute more to help your fat loss journey. Resistance exercise is the best exercise. Sure, you can do free weights, you can do machines. As we said, the most important things are to make sure that you do enough volume and with sufficient intensity. And that's something that will have to be practiced over time. When I first got into lifting weights, I wasn't like able to focus into a set and get every like little bit out of that. That was a skill. I had to acquire that skill. But my advice to you is do not have paralysis by analysis. Don't aim. Just go. Just do it. Just start imperfectly with no idea what the heck you're doing. Just get in there and go. And you will. People don't fail because they don't have the perfect program. They fail because they just stop doing the work. Layne, how can I get enough sleep if I'm trying to be successful and accomplish as much as possible? Well, what I will tell you is if you don't get enough sleep, you're not going to accomplish as much as possible. Listen, I'm all for grinding. I'm all for, getting out there and doing the work and whatnot. But if you're freaking miserable all the time, like you got to live some too. And it takes a while to find that balance. You know what I mean? I'm not perfect with it. I still have times where I'm unbalanced, but like if you don't enjoy it a little bit, if you don't stop and smell the roses a little bit, what's the impetus to keep going? So yeah, I think it's important to have that big goal and strive toward it and do the work. And I'm not saying there weren't nights I stayed up late and got up early, because there were, but you can't live a life of like, oh, I'm going to live on 4 hours of sleep and I'm never going to go out. I'm never going to be around friends and family. I'm just going to grind. Well, let me know how, like when you get to the end of that life, how you felt about it. Lerone says, is it better to do timed-based cardio or just focus on steps? I would say focus on steps only from the perspective of it's probably a little bit more precise. Just lost 10 pounds using carbon. I'm on maintenance right now, but going to switch to gain. What would be a reasonable gain goal to try and avoid adding much fat? Well, I would just go with the conservative side. So just drag that slider all the way to the left and put it on the minimum amount of weight possible. Okay. Love carbon. Thank you for... how about the inconsistency between adding macrocalories individually compared to consumed daily calories? You are an OCD perfectionist. We knew we would find you when we put this together. So you guys, you won't understand this because you don't have access to the back end and the way the app is coded. But essentially, we cannot do, if we do decimal places with numbers, it fucks everything up. And so we have to round to the nearest whole number on a per meal basis and on a per day basis. So if you look at the meals and you add them up individually, because of the rounding, you may come off a couple grams off here or there from your daily total. Stop worrying about it. The daily total is still tallied up as precisely as possible. It's just, we knew this would happen. I'm like, somebody who's super OCD is going to go through these individual meals and add them up and be like, oh, this is 2 grams off. Let it go. Let's see here. Hey, Layne, could you please clear the air on wearing continuous glucose monitors to keep glucose steady? I love how people are like, these CGMs. So this is something that implants under the skin and it tells you your blood glucose. I love how people are like, oh man, tracking calories, way too complicated. Let me surgically implant this device that's going to tell me what my blood glucose is. So the idea is that if you keep your blood glucose steady, you'll lose weight, you'll never develop diabetes. This is an example of people confusing short-term effects with long-term outcomes. Oh, I don't want to spike my blood glucose because it's going to make me a diabetic. No. Eating too much over a long period of time is what's going to make you a type 2 diabetic. There was a study done, that probably is the best study to do this example. They based the diet on white rice, fruit juice, and refined sugar. It's in the 70s, called the white rice. It was called the rice diet. Okay. It was with obese men, and these obese men dropped an average of 140 pounds on this diet. Now, it was in a calorie deficit. It was like 1,400 calories a day. All their blood markers improved. All of them. Their insulin sensitivity, their blood glucose, their blood lipids, all improved because they lost weight. Now, according to people who are all about CGMs, that would be impossible because you're spiking your blood glucose every time you have a meal, every time you eat this stuff. It's because short-term changes in blood glucose mean absolutely nothing for long-term outcomes. What happens is when you expand adipose tissue enough from overeating enough, that raises your blood glucose because you become insulin insensitive because you just can't stuff anymore into adipose tissue. If you want to wear a CGM, go for it. But I think you're wasting your money. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm looking for a question. All right, I'm just going to do some self-aggrandizing here. Huge thank you to you, Holly, and your team. Just got 1 year anniversary using carbon and got huge results. Can't wait to see what I do in the next year. Awesome. You should send us your results. That's fabulous. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm just looking through these questions. Let me see what else we got. Can you elaborate on the importance of strength training during a fat loss phase? Sure. If you don't strength train, you will lose muscle. There's the importance. I'm weight training with my husband 5 days a week and using carbon, eating at a deficit, looking to lose body fat. Will this happen without adding cardio? I hate cardio. Seems to be working so far. Well, then there you have your answer. It'll work, sure. Now, if you're not willing to do extra activity, you might have to take your calories lower than somebody who is willing to do extra activity. But certainly you can lose fat without doing cardio in a deficit, as long as you're in a deficit. Hi, Layne, great app, doesn't get nearly enough recognition, and great customer service too. Got my problem fixed within 12 hours, and that's probably due to the time difference as I'm in UK. Thanks, David. Yes, we have an amazing customer support staff. Amazing. Any benefit to the carnivore diet besides the high protein? You get to be part of a tribe that really feels like they have the best diet. And you can develop an undeserved undeserved smugness and sense of self-importance. That's the benefits of the carnivore diet. Started carbon at 216 pounds on July 2nd, now sitting at 197 pounds. I was doing a lot of walking with my dog. Pleased to say the least. Awesome. Layne, please clarify this issue for me. When I pull up pasta in the app, is that cooked or uncooked? Most things are listed as uncooked, unless you specifically search cooked, which you probably could. You could search cooked pasta or boiled pasta, and it would probably give you the weight for that. But most things are listed uncooked. Let's see here. I've gone from 295 pounds to 255 pounds on carbon. Learned so much in how my body responds. Awesome. What's the best way to incorporate intermittent fasting with carbon? Well, as long as you're not doing alternate day fasting, you don't really need to do anything else. Just enter your food when you eat it. Problem solved. Thanks, dude. Your content is friggin' hilarious. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We're just having a meeting with some business advisors that we hired to kind of give us feedback on our businesses. And one of the things I said was, I really feel like my wheelhouse and what I really enjoy doing is this. I enjoy doing social media. I enjoy, communicating scientific information to people in a manner that's digestible and is entertaining. And I feel like in that specific niche, I'm pretty freaking good. But sadly, I didn't really need an education. I should just be like every other fit influencer and be like, look at my muscles and my guns, go buy my stuff. Which I could do, but I feel like I can just back it up with science. Tips for getting in more protein at breakfast. I drink a vegan protein shake and eat a hard-boiled egg. I can't do dairy. Egg whites? More protein powder? I mean, you can increase your serving sizes. Can you talk about refeeds or diet breaks using the app? Yeah, refeeds are easy in terms of like days at maintenance or above. Just go to the calorie planner or the diet planner. Hang on. This is exactly why I have another phone. So I can show you guys. You're going to get to see. Actually, it may not show my macros since this is my other phone, but I'll show you. Excited to see you in Dubai. Awesome. So if I go into my diet planner, I have checked in. This is because I need to refresh the app because this is my old phone. Stand by. Anyway, you just go into the diet planner and then you adjust the days that you want more calories on, and it'll automatically adjust the other days. As far as diet breaks, easy. Very easy. Simply just go to, just change your goal. So if you're ready to do a diet break, just go to change goal, maintenance, do that for a week or however long you want, and you're good. Learning as much as I can from you to become a good coach in the future. Awesome. Thank you. Started at 196 pounds in March, currently sitting at 181 pounds. Stopped dieting in June and been eating at maintenance 500 plus on app. And I continue to lose weight. Eating 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight versus 1 gram has been amazing. Cool. Glad it's working for you. Yeah, you don't need as much protein as well. It's so funny because some people on the app are like, oh my God, I can't eat all this protein. And then other people are like, why is the protein so low? Keep in mind, my PhD was in freaking protein. When I went to do my PhD, I wanted to find more reasons to eat more protein more frequently. I was eating 300 grams when I went into doing my PhD. When I came out, I was eating 250 grams. So a lot of people in the fitness industry think they need more protein than they really do. Going to throw another one at you since you're plowing through these. I'm a huge fan of Peter Attia. You probably saw me. You probably found me from that show then. Is there anything with regard to nutrition, fitness, fasting, longevity that you and Peter disagree on? I don't know Peter's specific views on a lot of these topics because I've never spoken to him about these. I only know what other people have told me, which is dangerous because I feel like a lot of times people's stances can get misrepresented. But certainly some of the things that I've heard people say that he said about longevity and fasting, I probably wouldn't agree with. But I don't know. I've never talked to him directly about it. But I mean, we had a really good time on his podcast, and I would be happy to do it again. So hopefully, as we back on, we get a chance to talk about some of that stuff. Is the goal setting on carbon 0.7 pounds a week set to my body weight or 0.7 pounds in general? The recommendations for weight loss or weight gain are set specific to your body weight. Are there any dangers to taking creatine long term? I've heard that it causes kidney problems and hair loss. What is your advice? What is this? 1997? Like, this stuff's still around? It's like these myths get squashed, and then after everybody forgets about it, and we have a new crowd of people in, somebody like digs it back up out of the bowels of the fitness industry and says, oh, creatine's gonna, break your kidneys. No, and no. So, no, there's no evidence of that. Okay, let's see what other questions we got in the box. What is the name of the method for finding your daily calories for weight loss? I don't know what is considered a deficit for me. The method is called, go to the App Store, download Carbon Diet Coach, put your information in, and it does it all for you. Can a 56-year-old man who hasn't trained in years still build muscle? Absolutely. In fact, where I went to school for my PhD, right across the street, they were doing a study with 80-year-old people, having them resistance train, or their form of resistance training, which originally was just them sitting down onto a chair and then standing back up, and then they progressively overloaded them to the point where they were training with weights at a certain point. Now, they weren't squatting like 300 pounds or anything, but still, they were able to use weights over time, and they built significant lean body mass. So yes, this idea that you can't build muscle after a certain time is incorrect. Does the app work for UK people? Absolutely. We have a UK database. However, for the places where we don't have a database, so we have databases for Australia, America, UK, and Canada. People say, well, I'm in this country, it doesn't work for me. It works for you because the coach works for you. Let me ask you this. If you hired a nutrition coach, it would cost you hundreds of dollars per month for a good one, okay? Carbon is $10 a month. This coach, if you hired a coach for hundreds of dollars a month, they would take your information in, they would ask you questions about your goals, and they would come up with an initial plan, just like Carbon does. Then they would have you check in every week and update your macros based on how your body's responding, just like Carbon does. That coach that you hired for hundreds of dollars a month would not come with a free food tracker. Carbon does. So the fact that we don't have a database for your country, okay, here's what you can do. Two options. First option, you track in another app that you're already using for free that does have a database in your country. And then you just go to Carbon, press the three dots, put quick add at the end of the day, and enter in your macros that you ate. And there the app has all your data. It will take you an extra 15 seconds per day. And you're still getting coaching for $9.99 per month. Then the other option is, as you eat your foods, put them in as create your own food. And after a few weeks, you'll have your own database built. Either one works, and you're still getting coaching for $10 a month. Just add it as a quick ad. I don't know why people are so complicated. Exactly. $80 a year, and it's the best $80 I've ever spent. Awesome. Guys, I got to run. I hope you guys had a great time on this Q&A. I know I did. Make sure, if you're not using Carbon Diet Coach, like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Come on. $10 a month for customized nutrition coaching, or $49.99 for 6 months, or $79.99 for a year. Literally less than $7 a month for customized nutrition coaching for a freaking year. You can't even get like a consultation with a good nutritionist for $80. Good luck getting coaching for a year. So if you're not using it, you're crazy. I'm a former 2-time national champion, compete in sport, and I use it to coach me. And I have a PhD in nutrition. Just say it. Go download it. Subscribe. Much love. Catch you next time. Thanks, guys. Okay.